Hey, welcome back for another episode of Porn Brain Rewire, the podcast with me, Dr. Trish Leigh. Today, let's talk about the overarching theme of social media addiction. Today, I'm going to drop a truth bomb on you about social media and screen use and what that screen use does in terms of driving you back into the screen for dopamine. Essentially, it is a compulsion for screen time because of a dopamine dependency. So, number one, we're going to talk about what social media is and how, in fact, it perpetuates a dopamine dependency and a compulsion. Number two, we're going to talk about your brain performance pattern. So, what is your brain doing? And how does social media serve the need? There, in fact, is definitely a need going on in your brain performance pattern in terms of electrical energy, and social media is serving it, but unfortunately, it's making that brain pattern worse. So, number two, we're going to talk about your brain. Number three is your brain hack strategy for today. So, how do you break the chains of social media and get back into your life instead of spending time endlessly scrolling? So, let's dive in. Okay, number one, social media. So, the reason I'm making this episode of Porn Brain Rewire dedicated to social media is because people ask me all the time, what is considered porn? And in a different video, I have kind of outlaid the continuum of sexual acting out behaviors. Here, I want to talk about screen time and how going into social media in particular can serve your brain in a very similar way as porn, just at a little lower level. So if you're here on a Porn Brain Rewire journey with me, the hijacker might convince you that social media is just fine. I am here to tell you social media is not fine. It is very dangerous, and it is a slippery slope that very likely will lead you back into porn. And this is why. Now, I don't have to tell you how social media goes, but I'm just going to outline it for you in terms of its parameters real quick. So, especially apps like Instagram and TikTok, the way that they are designed is that they're to be scrolled very quickly, which that in and of itself, seeking and searching behavior is linked to dopamine. So the more you seek and search for the perfect thing to watch, you can see where I'm going with this, that is very much related to the way that porn sites are designed for you to seek and to search and to find the item with the most amount of dopamine to consume to give your brain a hit of dopamine. Social media does it at a lower level. So you're seeking, you're scrolling, your brain is becoming wired and tired because of that activity and just being exposed to the screen itself. We know the screen resonates at 60 hertz. That is going to wire and tire your brain. The act of scrolling, seeking, and searching is going to make your brain feel good in the moment, but it's also going to put your brain in that wired and tired pattern. So now you find something that you want to watch because it's the highest level dopamine producing video for you. Now, let's be honest, many of the videos that you will stop on, or even the still images, are sexual in nature. So, here's going to be your first brain hack when we get to the third part of this episode, but I want you to think about it here. Are you on social media for lower level sexual media? Be honest with yourself. Because if you're there to consume still images and videos that are sexualized, you are using social media as a lower level porn influenced activity. And your brain wants to do it because it wants the dopamine. Now, if that's the case for you, it's absolutely a slippery slope behavior. If that's not the case for you, it still is a dangerous activity that you can lose countless minutes and hours to, and you can lose that zest and that vitality for life because you're going into the screen for videos and images that are giving your brain dopamine. In doing so, you're linking your brain to the screen not linking your brain to your life. And the screen will produce more dopamine than your life in most cases if it's sexualized. Hopefully, you're with me. So, what social media does is the pleasure molecule of dopamine, which motivates you back for more pleasure and more of it at higher levels, will be linked in your brain to the screen. And we know how easy it is. And we know we see so many people that if you have to wait for 1 minute at the bank, and actually, banks are, I went to the bank the other day, and this is why I'm thinking about it, because I went inside and the girl had to go do something for me. And I was just standing there. I didn't have my phone on me. And I was just standing there, kind of like just chilling, waiting for her to come back, looking at their posters, which they could do a better job of. And then I thought to myself that, you know, other people would be on their phone right now. And there was no one else in the building. But it occurred to me like this would be a moment where it's like 1 minute where the girl walked away. She's going to be back in 1 minute. But people's propensity is to pull out their phone and fill that 1 minute with social media scrolling because you can't really do anything intentional in a minute. Which brings me to the next point about social media. Social media is a passive consumption activity, not an intentional consumption, nor is it an intentional production activity for most people. It's passive. You're passively consuming whatever shows up in front of you, which is the opposite of intentional. Intentional is jumping on your computer and going onto Google and looking for something that you specifically want to know more about, not sitting there digesting mentally anything that's thrown at you. And especially, again, if it's sexual media, you're there for the dopamine hits. So, passively filling your time and your brain space with items that really don't fit into the intentionality of the life that you're trying to create, it is busying up your brain, wiring and tiring it unnecessarily. Now, when you stop behaviors like that, the fog clears and you feel calmer and you feel more relaxed and you feel more focused and you appreciate those downtime moments. Now, we know when it comes to social media and especially porn, that the reason people keep going back is to offset stress. Another reason is to offset boredom. Now, here's what I want to tell you about stress. Number one, social media is perpetuating it. We know that. Science is now showing that if you go into social media more, or if you're using social media with at very high levels, your brain will in fact become wired and tired, which equals stress and anxiety in the way that you feel in your state. When it comes to boredom, this has been a major thing that's been on my mind lately. It is not boredom for people these days. It's lack of overstimulation. It feels like boredom to you, which, let's go back to my bank story, is I'm waiting in the bank and I literally only have 1 minute for the girl to come back out, but I'm not stimulating myself with my phone. So I'm like, whoa, I got nothing to do right now, which actually I love that. But for other people, that's 1 minute of lack of stimulation, which feels like boredom because you're used to overstimulation. If you hear nothing else from this episode, hear this. Your brain is overstimulated, wired and tired. That is less than optimal and less than ideal, and it is showing up in your life as passive consumption and lack of intentionality. This is a big thought for you because we are only here on this marble spinning in space for a finite amount of time in the human condition. And every decision that we make culminates in the experience that we have here and who we are. What I want for you is that you rock out your best life. You cannot rock out your best life intentionally, on purpose, passionately, fired up about your contribution and your connection to community if you're passively consuming other people's mindless, sexualized content. Those two things do not go together. I want you to rock out your best life, which means we need to tone down and most likely eliminate social media. Hopefully, you're there with me on these concepts. Social media, seeking, scrolling, searching creates wired and tired brain, making it so that you can't show up in your life passionately and purposely because your brain is linked to the dopamine in the screen. Okay, that's number one. Moving on to number two. In terms of number two, we know that what happens in your brain is that your brain ends up using the speeds and the extremes. A wired and tired brain is one that is using the extra fast speed and the extra slow speed simultaneously. I call it strained brain. If your brain's using extra fast, it's stressed. If your brain's using extra slow, it's fatigued and overwhelmed. So many people are stressed, anxious, fatigued, and overwhelmed, and social media is contributing to it through this wired and tired brain pattern of going back to consume passive content. If you weren't in the screen consuming that content, your brain would get time for that energy to come down and for you to recover, so that when it was time to get back into your life and to perform purposely, you could do so. Your brain needs recovery time. If it's constantly in the screen consuming, it doesn't get the recovery time that it needs. This shows up in strained brain in your QEEG brain map. So if you want to know what your brain is doing, I can show you that. If you go to drtrishleigh.com, in the first tab, it says Work with Dr. Trish Leigh. You go down, the first tab underneath it says First Step QEEG Brain Map. You can read about it in that web page, but essentially, the professional service that I provide, which I provided using an online platform and at-home technology that's quite affordable. I can scan your brain anywhere the entire world, and then we get on Zoom and I go through your brain scan with you. It's very powerful because what you can see is your wired and tired brain. And a wired and tired brain is at the root of anxiety, depression, lack of motivation, erectile dysfunction. It's at the core of the issues that you're struggling with. I can show you that in your brain pattern. So just know that this wired and tired brain is shown to be at the core of these mental and physical health issues. You can see it. And once you see it, there are ways that you can remediate it. So working with me is a top tier way. Taking one of my online workshops is a lower level, but still awesome tier way of learning what you need to do to be able to regulate your brain. So the brain pattern that social media addiction gives you is a wired and tired brain pattern that's identifiable on a QEEG brain map. Once you see it there, you can use the wonders of neuroplasticity to take those extreme speeds that are being used too much and to decrease them and increase the use of calm focus in the middle. What that does is it helps you feel great. And people that I work with, I just got off the phone with one of my clients and he's like, I have never felt this way. Never. He's like, I told my wife, I've never felt this way before. Technology is what allows you to get there if you've been using that wired and tired brain pattern for years or decades. Your brain gets stuck in that mode. And the way that I think about it is brains are supposed to be like automatic transmissions, able to shift through the gears by themselves so that you can sleep at night, so you can feel engaged in the day. But when you're in wired and tired, your gears are stuck like in a manual transmission. You've got the gas pedal to the metal and you've got the brake pedal to the metal. Strained brain. And you know what that does? Makes it so you cannot perform optimally, nor can you feel great. Okay, that's number two, what's going on in your brain. Let me give you your brain hack strategy for the day. First of all, part of my job is to increase your self-awareness. So let's look at how much you're on social media. Look at your screen time, go into your app. My screen time, it usually delivers it to me on Sunday mornings. Mine was down 20% last week. And I'm not a person who uses social media, so usually mine is for work. But look and see how much you're on social media. It might blow your mind. And when you see that number, then you commit to reducing the amount that you're on social media. And you reduce it by getting engaged in your life. Go do things that produce dopamine that are associated with real world experiences. So stay completely out of sexual media on social media, delete them, clean it out. And if anything pops up, immediately stop following that person. It is damaging your brain. It's contributing to your arousal dysfunction. It's contributing to dissatisfaction in your relationship, dissatisfaction in your work, feeling disconnected and dissociation. I'm telling you, stay out of sexual media. You will thank me. Your brain will certainly thank me. Then identify the activities in your life that make you feel most excited, make you feel connected, and make you feel joy. Write them down in your journal and then go do them. So go spend time with your friends and family. I watched the Bills game last night. Yes, they won. Fair weather fan. I get to stay can watching those Bills because the weather's looking good, at least for another week, right? So watching the Bills game with my hubs and with my kids, very fun. We had a great time. So that's one way that's exciting. Another way is I went to it's called Fenton, a really cool kind of bougie area, and the hubs and we sat and we watched them ice skating. Got an overpriced coffee at this little coffee truck. It was like $7. So find ways to get into the world. We had the loveliest time. It was really, really nice. And the weather was beautiful. We were having fun. I'm going back to the same place with my girls next week, hanging out with my friends. My friends came over on Friday, totally chill. Everybody was tired. They were all gone by like 7:30 because it was one of those nights, but so fun. Find what is fun for you. Use my boxing bag. So much fun. I've been working out on my trampoline. You should see my routine. Actually, you shouldn't, but you know what I'm saying here. So find ways to engage in your life that make you feel good and ramp you up. It will give you dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, the happiness trifecta, and it will teach you and it will rewire your brain back into your life out of social media. All right, this is important stuff because it's a lower level activity that can lead you back into the screen too much and lead you back to porn. Okay, I hope this helps. And as always, control your brain or it'll control you. I'll see you next time.